This is Lord Limbo. Not every abandoned place is truly empty. Tonight, you'll hear real stories from people who stepped into forgotten buildings, quiet, isolated, left to rot, and came back with memories that still haunt them. These aren't just stories. These are moments when the silence broke and something answered. Turn off the lights, put your headphones on, and get ready for 4 disturbing encounters you won't forget. My name is Marcus. I'm 32 now, but this happened when I was 25. Back then, I was into exploring abandoned buildings, nothing professional, just me and a decent flashlight, a backpack, and a lot of misplaced confidence. I wasn't one of those urban explorer guys filming everything for YouTube. I just liked walking into forgotten places and letting my mind wander. It gave me peace in a weird way. One day, I was driving around with no real destination when I saw it. It was this massive, rusted factory on the edge of a long stretch of woods. The main structure had a collapsed roof, and the windows looked like black holes punched into the walls. No fences. No trespassing signs that I could see. Just a long, cracked driveway leading straight into its mouth. I pulled over, grabbed my flashlight and water bottle, and walked in. The front of the place was completely silent. Not just quiet, silent. You know that moment when the world feels like it's holding its breath? That's what it was like. I could hear my own footsteps echo in ways that felt off. Too slow. Like the sound was bouncing around something I couldn't see. The floor was littered with broken glass, metal pipes, and scraps of machinery. There were big concrete columns running from floor to ceiling, all covered in graffiti and mold. I passed through the lobby area into a massive open space where giant machines used to sit. Everything had been gutted. The sunlight that came in through the broken roof and shattered windows gave the place a dusty, yellowish glow, like the air itself was old. I kept walking. Eventually, I found a staircase that led down into what looked like a lower maintenance floor or storage area. The air got colder the deeper I went. Not just cooler, cold. And it wasn't a drafty kind of cold. It was heavy. Like it belonged to something alive. I flicked on my flashlight, and the beam caught old shelves, rusted tanks, and busted workbenches. Everything down there was coated in a thin layer of dust, except for one thing, a narrow, metal door in the back corner. The dust around the floor there had been disturbed, like someone had walked in or out recently. The handle of the door was clean. No dust at all. I didn't touch it. I stood there for a solid minute, flashlight shaking in my hand, listening. That's when I heard it. A soft scrape. Like metal dragging lightly against concrete, coming from behind the door. Then silence again. I backed up, slowly. I wanted to leave. Every part of my brain was telling me to get the hell out. But just as I turned to go, I heard something else. A voice. Not clear. Not loud. Just a whisper. But it was definitely a voice. It came from behind me, from the far corner of the basement. I spun around, shining my light, but there was nothing. Just pipes. Empty walls. Shelves. Then I heard it again. A little closer. Marcus. My name. It said my name. I didn't tell anyone I was going there. No one knew where I was. I didn't post anything. I hadn't even spoken aloud since leaving my car. I froze. I didn't breathe. And then I heard it again, closer now. Marcus. It sounded like it came from inside the walls. Like it was being pushed through concrete with just enough pressure to make it audible. I sprinted. I didn't think. I just ran up the stairs, tripping on the last step, scraping my knee so hard I didn't notice until I was halfway to the car. When I got outside, the silence lifted. Birds were chirping again. Wind moved through the trees. But I didn't feel any better. I felt like something had followed me out. I checked my rearview mirror the whole drive home. I didn't sleep that night. In the weeks that followed, strange things started happening. I'd hear knocking on my apartment walls around 3 a.m., even though I lived alone. My electronics would glitch, only at night. My name would pop up in scrambled text on my phone screen, like a corrupted file. Once, I came home and found dirt on the floor leading from my front door to my bedroom. Heavy footprints, like someone had walked through with steel-toed boots. I changed the locks. It happened again. I've never gone back to that factory. I won't even drive past the road it's on. But the worst part is, sometimes, especially on cold nights when the power flickers, I still hear it. That same whisper. Marcus. Story 2. My name is Daniel. I was 28 when this happened. At the time, I worked as a maintenance technician at a large, aging technical school. The building was a mix of decades-old architecture, with strange hallways that led nowhere, bricked-up doors, and oddly sized rooms. It was the kind of place that felt like it had secrets. One Friday afternoon around 5 p.m., I was assigned to inspect the sub-basement maintenance tunnels. They were narrow corridors that ran underneath the entire building, mostly used for piping and old utility lines. Hardly anyone ever went down there. The entrance was hidden behind a locked steel door in the lower storage level. Only a few of us had keys. I grabbed my flashlight, clipboard, and a mask, and headed down. As soon as I stepped into the tunnel, I noticed how cold it was. Not just cooler, unnaturally cold. The kind of cold that sticks to your skin even when you're fully dressed. The air smelled like damp concrete and rust. The tunnel was dim and narrow, with thick pipes overhead and on either side. My boots echoed with every step. At first, everything seemed normal, just the hum of distant machines and the drip of condensation from above. Then, I reached a junction I didn't recognize. I'd been in these tunnels before. I knew the layout. This offshoot on the left wasn't supposed to be there. It was darker than the rest of the passage. Narrower. The walls weren't the usual poured concrete but instead made of uneven brick, almost like an older structure had been built and then buried beneath the school. I stared at it for a while. I should have turned back, logged it, and gone home. But curiosity got the better of me. I stepped in. Immediately, something felt wrong. The temperature dropped even more. My flashlight, which had been strong and steady all day, started flickering slightly. The walls were wet to the touch, and the floor wasn't cement anymore, it was packed dirt. I could hear something faint in the distance. Not voices. More like breathing. Slow and deliberate. I stopped walking. I turned off my flashlight just to listen, and in the pitch darkness, I swear I felt something shift in the air. Like whatever was breathing had become aware of me. I turned the light back on. Behind me, the corridor seemed different. Narrower. The way the light bounced off the walls didn't look right anymore. I began walking back the way I came, fast. Then, I heard it. A soft sound, coming from the end of the hall behind me. Not footsteps. Not talking. Scraping. Like long fingernails dragging slowly across the brick. I didn't turn around. I just ran. My flashlight bounced wildly as I sprinted back toward the main tunnel. My lungs were burning. When I reached the ladder to the basement level, I climbed it 2 rungs at a time, slammed the steel door shut behind me, and locked it. I didn't speak to anyone about it. The following Monday, I came back with another maintenance worker and showed him the area. But the corridor? It was gone. The tunnel ended exactly where it always had. No branching passage. Just a solid concrete wall. I know what I saw. I know what I heard. And sometimes, late at night, when I'm working alone in the building and the vents go quiet, I swear I can still hear it. That slow, steady scraping from somewhere deep inside the walls. Story 3. My name is Elijah, and I don't talk about this often. It happened about 4 years ago, when I was 27. I had just moved to a smaller town, trying to get away from the city. Fresh start. Cheaper rent. Slower life. I ended up renting a room in a shared house that was owned by an old church. The house was next door to the church building itself, and as part of the deal, I occasionally helped out with small maintenance tasks. Fixing lights, painting fences, that kind of thing. It wasn't a big church, maybe 20 pews inside, and it hadn't held regular services in years. One day, the caretaker asked if I could help clear out the basement. They were planning to rent the space for storage and wanted it cleaned up. I agreed, thinking it'd be a simple job. It wasn't. The basement wasn't accessible from the main part of the church. You had to go around back and open a metal hatch that led down a narrow concrete stairwell. The kind you feel like you're not supposed to go down. The air got colder with every step, and the smell down there was hard to explain, dusty, yes, but also like something had been rotting for a long time. There was no power. Just one large room with a few alcoves and a bunch of old furniture, hymnals, boxes of decorations, broken speakers, junk that had clearly been down there for decades. I brought a big lantern-style flashlight and a trash bag and got to work. About 20 minutes in, I started feeling watched. It wasn't a sound, or a shadow, just that pressure you feel when someone's eyes are on you. I kept glancing over my shoulder. Nothing. I blamed it on the silence and kept going. Then, I heard a sound. From one of the back alcoves, behind a tall stack of chairs, I heard something shift. Like fabric being dragged across the floor. I froze. "Hello?" I called out, even though I knew no one should be there. No answer. I walked over cautiously, flashlight pointed ahead. There was nothing. Just a pile of church robes and a broken cabinet leaning sideways. But the robes looked recently moved. One of them was bunched like someone had stepped on it. I checked the entire area. No one. I went back to cleaning. 5 minutes later, I heard it again. This time louder. A clear dragging sound. Followed by a sharp knock. 1, 2, 3. Coming from the far end of the room, on the wall. I stood still for a long time, trying to rationalize it. Pipes? Animals? I listened closely. Then it came again. 3 knocks. Slower. Heavier. I backed away, grabbed my flashlight, and decided I'd had enough. As I turned toward the stairs, the light flickered. Just for a second. But long enough for me to see something. A figure standing in the alcove behind the stack of chairs. Not moving. Not making a sound. It was just standing there. Not fully visible, just part of the body in the frame of the light before the flicker passed. The silhouette didn't make sense, tall, but crooked. Like the shoulders were off balance. When the light came back fully, it was gone. I didn't go back for the trash bag. I didn't turn off the flashlight. I just left. I locked the hatch behind me and told the caretaker I couldn't finish the job. He didn't ask why. Maybe he knew. Maybe that's why he asked me to do it in the first place. To this day, I can't walk past that building without looking at the back entrance. I never went back inside. Not even during the day. Because I know what I saw. And I know it wasn't something I want to see again. Story 4. My name is Trevor. This happened 2 years ago, and I still don't have a good explanation for it. I had been going through a rough period, breakup, job stress, all of it. I needed to get away. A friend of mine who does outdoor photography told me about a small cabin he used once, tucked deep in a wooded area up north. It hadn't been used in years, but it was still accessible by a rough dirt road. The idea of complete solitude sounded perfect at the time. I packed light, just clothes, food, a solar lantern, and some books. No service out there. No Wi-Fi. That was the point. When I arrived, it was late afternoon. The cabin was small, one room, with a stone fireplace, a single bed, and a tiny kitchen area. Dusty, but not trashed. It looked like someone had swept through recently. There was a silence in the woods around it that felt different, almost too quiet. But I chalked it up to the isolation. The first night was uneventful. I lit a fire, read a bit, and fell asleep early. But the second night was different. It started with a sound outside around midnight. Something light, like twigs snapping. I thought it might be deer or raccoons, so I ignored it. Then it happened again. Closer. Then a tap on the window. Just one. Gentle. I sat up in bed and grabbed my flashlight. I shone it toward the window and saw nothing. Just darkness and trees. I told myself it was a branch. But then, I noticed the doorknob. It moved. Not violently. Just a slow, testing twist. Like someone was seeing if it was locked. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. After a few seconds, it stopped. Then silence. I stayed frozen in bed for hours. At some point, I must have drifted off, because the next thing I remember was waking up to daylight pouring through the window. I checked outside. No footprints. No signs of anything. I tried to shake it off. But that night, it happened again. And this time, it wasn't the doorknob. It was footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps circling the cabin. I turned off the lights and stayed low. The steps moved to the back wall, then around the other side. Then stopped. I waited. Then I heard something that made my blood run cold. Breathing. Right up against the wall. Like someone was pressed to it from the outside, inhaling deep and slow. I could feel it through the wooden boards. I stayed there, paralyzed, until morning. When I went outside after sunrise, I found something in the dirt. A handprint. Not deep. Just one. Right beneath the back window. Not mine. That was my last night in the cabin. I left everything behind, backpack, food, flashlight. I didn't care. I just got in my car and drove. I haven't been back, and I never will. Whatever was out there, it wasn't an animal. It wasn't human, either. It knew I was alone. It knew I was vulnerable. And it wanted me to know it was there. Some places are forgotten for a reason. Sometimes, what people see, or hear, inside them never truly leaves. If you've ever experienced something strange in an abandoned place, you're not alone. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more real stories like these. Until next time, keep your eyes open. You never know what's standing just behind the silence.